This is the Transforming Anxiety podcast with Kelly Hanlon McCormick, and today is episode number 198, Metacognition. Welcome to Transforming Anxiety. I'm your host, Kelly McCormick. I'm a mom to 2 boys, a wife, friend, daughter, and sister, and I'm a certified life coach, yoga teacher, and soon-to-be mindfulness meditation teacher. I'm no stranger to anxiety, and I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and your emotions so that you too can transform anxiety into calm, peace, and whatever you want for your life. I'm so glad you're here. Hey there. Welcome in today. Okay, so I told you I was going to do some short and sweet episodes this month, and then I totally got carried away last week because I had a topic that I really wanted and felt like I needed to share with you. And, well, that episode ended up being a little on the long side for me, actually, instead of the short side. That was the one on when you're in it, episode number 197. It's a really important one, though, so check it out if you haven't already. That said, we're going to balance it out this week. That whole too long thing that we did last week, we're going to try to stick to short and sweet this week. We'll see how it goes. Today, we're going to be talking about metacognition. Metacognition. Have you heard this term? This is interesting. This is a good one to consider. And actually, this is a little lighter than what we explored last week. They can't all be so heavy, right? All right, so here we go. Metacognition means basically thinking about thinking, okay? Or to say it a little bit more elaborately, it's an awareness of one's thought processes and an understanding of maybe the habits, the patterns behind them, like what props up the current thinking, all that goes into your thinking, all right? So obviously, this is a uniquely human thing, the ability to think about what we're thinking about. It's pretty remarkable, really. We fall into believing our thoughts and just floating along with whatever's going on in our mind as if we are our thoughts. But really, we always have the ability to pull back and consider our own thoughts, to think about our thinking. And, well, that means a few things. One, you are not your thoughts. You can think about your thoughts. So you must be separate from your thoughts if you have the capacity to get even a millimeter of perspective on your thoughts. And this also means that you have some authority over your thoughts. This ability to think about your thoughts means you can choose. You have the responsibility to make choices about your thoughts. So I just read this. This is kind of an amazing book. I listened to the audiobook. It's called Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before by Dr. Julie Smith. And she wrote in her book, metacognition is the process of stepping back from the thoughts and getting enough distance to allow us to see those thoughts for what they really are. See them for what they really are. This is the power of the mind, that we can right-size our thoughts. We can see when our minds are off base, when they're scared, or when they're outright lying to us. Thoughts are thoughts. They're stories we're telling to help make meaning of a situation or a circumstance or an event. Humans are storytellers. This is what we do. It's what we've always done. We tell stories, we tell emotion-rich stories in order to give our world meaning. And metacognition is this very human, very cool ability to step back from what we're thinking and recognize this is the story that I'm telling about this situation. It's not true. It's not real. It's what I'm making it mean. All right, Albert Rutherford, he wrote this in his book, which is called Learn to Think in Systems. He said, "We are also the only creatures who possess the ability of metacognition. We can think about our thoughts. We can think and accept our biological limitations and realities and choose to act against them. We can choose to delay gratification, and we can choose to find solutions that make us happy in the long-term future." All right, obviously that's just a little snippet from a larger context in his book. He goes on to talk about thinking in systems, but this is a really interesting point here too about metacognition. We can think about our thoughts, all right, and that we can think about and accept our biological limitations and our realities, and we can choose to act against them. Meaning, like, we could choose to delay gratification. This is fascinating. Our brains are programmed to seek pleasure, to avoid pain, and to be as efficient as possible. Like, we do this whether we're paying attention to it or not, whether we want to or not, which means we're constantly seeking immediate gratification, and we're constantly trying to route around pain and discomfort. But as humans, we have the ability to think about our biological limitations, this motivational triad that has us primed for pleasure and avoiding pain, and we can choose to find other solutions. Like, other animals are kind of stuck with this operating system. They're going to just plow forward with whatever their brains are programmed to do. But humans, we have a choice. We have the ability to think about our thinking. Is this how I want to think? Is this kind of thinking working for me? Could I think about this in another way? What else is possible here? These are all extremely powerful questions to ask ourselves, right? All right, this comes from Daphne de Marneff. She wrote this in her book, which is called The Rough Patch. It's a marriage book. She wrote, "Metacognition is the ability to recognize that our thoughts are thoughts and not a direct representation of reality. When faced with an angry mother, a child who has achieved metacognition can replace the idea, 'I am a bad person,' with the idea, 'Mommy is treating me like I am a bad person, but sometimes she's been wrong about things in the past.' When a wife employs metacognition, she can move from the thought, 'My husband is a son of a bitch,' to, 'My husband can say mean things sometimes, and it's not okay, but I also know he's extremely anxious in this moment.'" All right, I love the first part of this quote. Thoughts are thoughts and not a direct representation of reality. There are thoughts about reality, our stories, our interpretations. And our thoughts are based on lots of things. Things like our wants, our desires, our past, our knowledge, our culture, our upbringing, our experience so far. So much goes into the stories that we tell. It's not an isolated thing, right? To experience a moment and then tell a story about it, because that story is always based on all the stories that came before that story. It's based on what's socially acceptable and on what you want and need. There's a lot of context to our thoughts and our stories, and metacognition gives us the ability to consider all of that, to remember that our thoughts are thoughts and not a direct representation of reality. So, why bring this up? Why talk about metacognition? First, it's kind of cool, right? It's kind of mind-bendy to think about your thinking, to use your mind to consider your mind. But aside from that, and maybe probably more importantly, because it's a thing, and it's a thing we can use to slow everything down in our mind, to reconsider, to take responsibility over how our thoughts and how our feelings are going to go. It's like we plug into ourselves when we employ metacognition, because we're not just along for the wild ride our mind wants to take us on. We recognize that those thoughts, they're just suggestions. They're just passing ideas. Some are okay. Some are great. Some of them are terrible. And we can evaluate all of it before we really take it in, before we believe it, and before we start living it. So think about a waterfall and imagine that you're on a landing or you're like in a little cave standing behind the waterfall. So you see all of this water rushing past you, more and more and more. This is how our thoughts and this is how our feelings are. More are always coming. It's like a never-ending stream of thoughts, a never-ending stream of feelings, more and more. And a lot of times, we let go of the reins, we kind of fall asleep, and just take whatever our minds are handing us. We accept it, we believe it, we go with it. And metacognition is a tool that if we can remember to remember, we have this tool. It's a tool we can use to say, wait a minute, do I like these thoughts? Is this working for me? Or even, how does this thought play in my life? What happens when I think this way? When I believe this? When I perpetuate this line of thinking? If you've ever found yourself ruminating on a certain family of thoughts, just spinning some painful story over and over again in your mind, you can appreciate how meaningful the tool of metacognition could be. If you've ever found yourself thinking super scary thoughts that lead you to dead ends, thoughts that don't make you the best version of yourself, again, you can likely appreciate the power here. You can think about your thoughts. You can get curious there. You could get mindful there. To be mindful, you bring a sense of curiosity and friendliness to what's happening. You recognize that you are so much bigger than your thoughts. Thoughts are just sentences in your mind. Maybe they're pictures, images, ideas, mental movies that you're playing over and over again. They're meaningless on their own. It's not until we breathe life into them by believing them and giving them weight that they become real. They don't become real until we sign up and live them. Your thoughts, they can just stay in your mind. They never have to see the light of day. They never have to touch your emotions or your behaviors at all. They could just be silly sentences that float through your mind. Metacognition makes that possible. This is one of the keys of mindfulness, by the way, the practice of being aware, of paying attention, of being in the moment long enough to notice what the present moment is. Ora Nadrich said, think of mindfulness as an innate superpower. It's like having metacognition, which means you have a heightened awareness of what you're thinking in the moment, as well as a heightened awareness of your understanding of what you're thinking and why. Mindfulness, which we've talked about a little bit here, we're going to be talking about more and more. Mindfulness is metacognition. This is a practice. So keep this tool nearby. Use this. Get and stay aware. Question your thoughts. Think about your thoughts. Sift through them. Sort them. Be the leader of them. Don't be led by them. Yeah? All right, my friend, that's what I've got for you today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. We're almost to the part where I say a wonderful rest of the year. My goodness. Take care of yourself. Think about your thoughts. And I will see you at the same time, same place next week for more transforming anxiety. And until then, please take care. Do you have someone to help you with your stress, anxiety, worry, and overwhelm? If not, I would love to be your coach. The Fierce Calm Project is my virtual coaching program where we get to go in on topics like this one, and I can help you apply these lessons to your life so that you're creating your own transformation. We do live coaching calls, guided meditations, on-demand yoga classes. We hold book club where we read books your neighborhood book club won't, and there's lots of bonus content that I've created just for you. When you're ready to take what you're learning on the podcast to a whole other level, then come on over and check out the Fierce Calm Project at kellyhanlonmccormick.com/Fierce Calm Project.